Hi everyone. Today I'm making a traditional dish that I had every year at Christmas growing up. This is a wonderful, easy broccoli aglio olio, which is garlic and olive oil along with spaghetti dish. Has a little bit of crushed red pepper. It's very popular in the area of Campagna and Lazio, which is Rome, and a little bit south, which is in the Naples area. I'm going to be using some broccoli florets, fresh ones, but you can certainly go and buy a bag of them, a good quality bag of broccoli florets already done. Spaghetti is the traditional pasta for this dish, so I'm going to use a great pasta that I found. It's called ciabatta, which means guitar in Italian. They do have a pasta maker that you can purchase. You can even find them in this country that looks like a square that has strings on it, just like a guitar. So you would roll out your pasta dough and put it on top of the ciabatta, and then take a rolling pin and roll it over, and you'll get all of these beautiful cuts of square spaghetti. This is from the Campagna area. And you don't have to use this, but if you can find it, it's very classically part of that area. And we're also going to grate some Pecorino Romano cheese. So when you're cooking from the south, a little bit south of Italy, you tend to go with a sheep's milk cheese. And you want to more use a Pecorino Romano than a Reggiano Parmigiano, which is more from the north. So let me show you how I'm going to cut the broccoli, and we'll move on and have a great pasta dish. Okay, so we're going to take fresh broccoli and cut florets out of it, and I think most of you know how to do that, but let me show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to not use this harder stem, and that can be saved for soup. Okay, but all I really need to do is get my floret with a little bit of the stem on it going. This doesn't take long at all. You can even have this longish. In other words, you could even have some of your broccoli with a lot of the stem, as long as the stem is a little bit narrow. You just don't want it too chewy. When I get a really large piece like this, I just grab my little paring knife and I cut into it, and suddenly you have some little florets here. This dish is going to take about 3 to 4 cups of broccoli florets. So right now I'm seeing I might have about 1.5 cups or so. So I'm going to keep going. If you want more broccoli in this recipe, you can certainly add it. It will not harm the recipe. It will taste fabulous. So every Christmas, my family had this along with all kinds of other dishes. And the one thing about this dish is it's vegetarian. Although sometimes we would add anchovies to this, but the children did not like anchovies, so we left it out a lot of times. But you can certainly take this dish and bring it to another level, and you can add sauteed shrimp, or you can cut up some chicken and saute chicken. But this is just a great dish when you want to really have a quick and easy dinner, and you can just throw this together, particularly if you have some frozen broccoli. So I have some boiling water going. This is going to be both for the broccoli and then later for the pasta. I'm not going to switch out the water. But one thing I learned as a chef is if you want to keep your broccoli a little bit green and vibrant, or most of your green vegetables, definitely add salt to your boiling water. We would want to do this anyway for our pasta, but we particularly want to keep our broccoli a little bit colorful. So I'm putting in maybe a couple of good tablespoons of my kosher salt. It could be sea salt too. So in it goes, and we're only going to cook it maybe for 3 or 4 minutes. And don't forget, it will keep cooking in the saute pan later with our olive oil and garlic. So if it's still a little bit crisp, it'll be okay. So you can see how bright green our broccoli is. We've cooked it for about 5 minutes, and it's really still a little bit tender, but definitely edible. I'm not even going to try and shock it, which means putting it in cold water. There's no need to. It is not meant to be, we don't need to stop the cooking. We're going to keep cooking this in our olive oil garlic sauce. So I'm taking it out, I'm keeping this boiling because now our pasta is going to go in here. And don't worry if your water's turned a little bit green. It's just going to flavor the pasta with a little bit more of a broccoli flavor, which you will love. So let's get everything out. And the water is still boiling, so I can go for it and add my pound of pasta. So in goes the pasta, and whenever I cook spaghetti, I really want to make sure that this top part gets sunken into the hot boiling water because it's very stiff and it's, you know, you can see it's really not easy to move. So I start lifting up the softened side a little bit. I move things around, and sooner or later this will all sink into that boiling water. You can see. Watch your spaghetti, it can really stick together unless you move it during those first 5 minutes of cooking. And all dry pasta takes approximately 10 minutes to cook if it's dry. But we're going to take this out in about 8 minutes because we are going to keep cooking it in our olive oil and garlic. So while the pasta is cooking, you can make your sauce. So I'm using extra virgin olive oil. It's really important to use this. It's going to just, you know, make the flavors work. Once you press an olive the second time, you lose the intensity of it, and that is certainly good for certain dishes. But for this particular dish and some others, you really need the extra virgin. Okay, you want a saute pan that's going to have high sides to it so that it will accommodate all of your spaghetti. You don't want a saute pan that's too low. I'm going to stir my pasta right now while my oil is heating up. And we're just going to swirl this around. This is going to stop it from sticking together. I think most of you know how to cook pasta. Make sure you always have a lot of water in your pan when you cook pasta. That sometimes is the problem that people have. The pasta tends to stick together. And I don't use olive oil in my pasta water. I never have, and I know some people do. It's up to you, but it can add a little bit of an oil slick onto the pasta. All right, so I'm hearing my olive oil sizzling. We're going to add our garlic to the pan right now. And I have about 8 garlic cloves. This is a very garlicky dish, okay? Because we don't want this garlic to burn at all. It does have to cook, it's raw, and it needs to have the flavor mellowed a little bit. So we'll let that cook for about a half a minute. We're on about a medium heat. Okay, so I'm just going to give it a little bit of a whirl, but I know I need to cook this just a little bit longer. Okay, so in goes our broccoli florets now. Now I'm going to be careful not to get water in here, only because we have so much oil. But if you do add a little pasta water later, that will be okay. We may do that. You can see that the broccoli softened up. Don't worry about that if it's falling apart just a little bit. That's very common with this dish. I'm going to give it a really good stir. I want to coat all that broccoli with that great garlic and olive oil. And now I'm going to throw some chili pepper flakes onto this. This is optional. It's very traditional with the dish, but if you have people in your house that do not want chili pepper flakes, just pass this around. Quite often in an Italian household, you'll find chili pepper flakes right on the table. And that's so that people can flavor up their pizza or their pasta dishes or whatever they want. We're also going to season this up now. We're going to season it with some kosher salt. And that's probably just barely a teaspoonful. And we're going to crack some black pepper. We're almost done with this dish, believe it or not. So I'm just going to spin this around because I want to get that salt and pepper mixed in. And you know, once again, this broccoli stayed beautifully green because of that salt trick. I'm going to check my spaghetti and see how it's doing. We might be ready to put it in here now. This might need another minute or two. And in the meantime, if you find your pasta needs more cooking but your broccoli is done, just shut the burner off and then you can turn it back on when you're ready to put your spaghetti in. Which I'm going to do right now. Okay, let me taste a piece. How do you know when your pasta's done? You always need to taste a piece of it. And I can even just feel that this is too hard right now. So I'm going to give this maybe a few more minutes. Okay, so I'm going to grate some Pecorino Romano cheese right now. This is actually what I grew up with and hadn't had Parmesan until I was much older because this is from the region of Campagna, where my mother is from. So there's two ways to grate cheese. You can use these new rasp graters. You know, you can get them everywhere. They're wonderful. They're great for lemon zest too. Or you can go with your old-fashioned box grater, which I've really fallen in love with. It's just an easier way to grate cheese. You can grate a lot of it at once on a plate. One little thing I've mentioned before in my videos is that Italians don't grate all of their cheese at once. In other words, you only take it out and you grate enough for your dinner that night because it can get stale once it's totally grated and it's sitting there for 2 or 3 weeks in your fridge. I like to hold my rasp grater up a little bit, brace it, and then just go for it. So Pecorino too is a more powerful grated cheese. It's a stronger flavor, whereas Reggiano Parmigiano is not. It's more nutty and buttery. So this is one way you can do this. This is great for the table if you want to come around and grate a little bit for your company. But what I really enjoy, as I mentioned, is the box grater. So I'm using this side. There are different sides. One is more puckery. This is used a lot for hard cheeses. This is used to shred, and I love this for shredding carrots. And then this is great to slice Parmesan if you want to have a salad where you've got those little sheets of Parmesan. But I'm going to use this side right here. I really like it. And one thing about this is it captures your cheese right in the center. Now this dish, we are not going to add cheese to the pan, which we're going to serve the cheese off to the side. It would make it a little bit gummy because we have so much olive oil in the pan. So let's see what we've got. And you can see how much we grate in a hurry with a box grater. Okay, so I think our spaghetti is ready. And I'm just going to take a tong and just pop it into the broccoli mixture. Don't worry about a little bit of pasta water getting into this dish. That's actually very common. If you ever feel you want it a little saucier, but you don't want to add extra sauce no matter what it is, pasta water, don't throw it out. It's got that nice starch in it, and it's really one of the best things you can do to increase a sauce a little bit or water a sauce down that's too thick. This will definitely feed 4 large servings or 6 side dishes. So you can have this with a roasted chicken or pork chops or fish. It's wonderful with fish, some baked haddock, or you could add sauteed shrimp to this. I would saute your shrimp in with that garlic oil and throw your broccoli in and you're ready to go. Okay, so now just grab it while it's still nice and hot and toss your beautiful garlic, olive oil sauce around. Make sure all your pasta is coated. And you can see how easy this dish was to do. It took hardly any work, and you'll just fall in love with it once you eat this for the first time if you haven't already. This could also be made with broccoli rabe if you're a fan of that, or some other greens, although that's not this traditional dish, but I think that would be wonderful. So now if I needed a little bit more sauce, I can see a nice shine on the ciabatta here. So we're probably good, but you could take a tiny ladle of your pasta water and you could throw it in here. I'm not going to do that. I really think that this is how I want to eat it. So I'm going to bring it over to the table and plate it. So here we are with our great pan of pasta. You can serve this on a big platter or just right out of the saute pan you use. Okay, so that looks like a really good serving. A little piece of broccoli on the top. And now is the time when you want to put pecorino cheese all over it. And if you feel like a little bit of black pepper, you can do that now too. Make this for yourself and your friends and your family. I think you're going to really love it.